The February full moon of 2022, which is also called the snow moon, will be accompanied by Predawn planets. Welcome back to Mystery Truth. The full moon of February, called the snow moon, will arrive on Wednesday, the 16th of February at 11:57 a.m. EST. That is 4:57 GMT. That same day, Mercury reaches its greatest distance west of the Sun, making it a bright but challenging to observe morning star in mid-northern latitude. In New York City, the full moon will rise at 5:32 p.m. local time, according to time and dates, exactly the time of sunset. So from an area with a flat horizon, which includes open fields or water, are good candidates. One can watch the sunset and moonrise at the same time. The moon will be in the constellation Leo, the lion, and by midnight it will reach a maximum elevation of 67.9 degrees in New York. The moon's altitude will be similar in mid-northern latitude. The farther south you are, the higher the moon's elevation will be. In Miami, for example, the moon's altitude at midnight will be about 83 degrees. The full moon happens when the moon is exactly on the opposite side of the earth from the sun. The timing of lunar phases depends on the position of the moon rather than the position of the observer, which means that the time when the moon is full depends on one's time zone. While in New York City, the moon is full at 11:57 a.m. If you live in Madrid, the full moon occurs at 5:57 p.m., which happens to be just before moonrise at 6:38 p.m. local time. In Melbourne, Australia, the full moon occurs at 3:57 a.m. on February the 17th. Full moons are an easy target for binoculars or small telescopes, but they can be a bit disappointing because the moon is so bright that the surface loses contrast. That is because there are no shadows to outline the moon's features. That said, moon filters are available that can make some features stand out in telescopes. So if you observe the moon a few days before or after the full moon, shadows bring out more details. Now let's look at the visible planets that you can see on that day. The full moon happens the same day Mercury reaches its greatest distance or elongation west of the Sun. On February 16th, the planet rises at 5:35 a.m. local time. Since sunrise is at 6:48 a.m., that gives about an hour to see it. But in mid-northern latitudes, that will be a challenge. At 6:30 a.m. in New York, the planet will only be 9 degrees above the horizon. Observers farther south will have a slightly easier time. In Galveston, Texas, for example, Mercury will be almost 11 degrees high by about 6:30 a.m. and the sun rises at 6:57 a.m. local time. Closer to the equator, in Honolulu, Hawaii, where the full moon occurs at 6:57 a.m. local time on February the 16th, the sun rises at 7:01 a.m. while Mercury rises at 5:31 a.m. local time. In the southern hemisphere, Mercury is still higher in the sky. On February 17, when the full moon occurs there, the planet rises at 4:44 a.m. local time in Melbourne, Australia. Sun rises at 6:51 a.m. and Mercury is about 18 degrees high by 6:20 a.m. Venus will also be a morning star, and it will be much easier to see for people in the northern hemisphere than Mercury. In New York City, our sister planet rises at 4:20 a.m. on February 16th. As a challenge, you can try to see how close sunrise you can spot Venus in the sky. Mars would also be visible in the Predawn sky, and Jupiter will be visible in the evenings. Over the next month, Jupiter will also move to the Predawn sky, becoming prominent in late March. The full moon shares the sky with a number of bright winter constellations. During February, the constellation Orion the Hunter is visible almost all night, starting the evening high in the east-southeast. Near Orion are Taurus, the bull, and Gemini, the twins. Just to the southeast of Orion is Canis Major, the big dog, which is home to Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. All three constellations are bright enough that they don't get overwhelmed by the full moon, even in urban areas. So we ask, how did the snow moon get its name? According to Ontario Native Literacy Project, the Ojibwe or Anishinaabe people call the full moon of February Mikwa Gizis, that is the bear moon. The Cree called it the Kisipisin or the great moon, because during this time of the year animals do not move around much and trappers have little chance of catching them. The Tlingits of the Pacific Northwest call the February moon Sigdis or black bear moon, while the Haida called it Higitun Kongei or goose moon. In the southern hemisphere, where February is during the summer, the Maori of New Zealand described the lunar month in February to March as measured between the successive new moons and with the full moon halfway between. They called it Asputerangi, or the crops are now harvested, according to the Encyclopedia of New Zealand. In China, the traditional lunar calendar calls this February lunation the first month, Zhengjie, and it is when the traditional Chinese Lunar New Year is celebrated. In 2022, the night of the full moon as seen in Beijing falls on February 17th at 12:57 a.m., 2 days after the Lantern Festival, which marks the high point of the traditional Chinese New Year festivities. Many Chinese diaspora communities celebrate it as well. Wow. Drop your comment in the comment section, and please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Thank you very much.